Hi, this is SHOJO, and this video is going to be an absolute beginner's guide to manga. What it is, how to navigate it, and good places to start. So please ignore the costume. I'm actually camera shy and I'm a very boring person otherwise, so I just wear this because it's fun. Anyway, so who's this video for? This video is basically an introduction for anybody who is kind of curious about what manga is. Where's a good place to start, because there's a lot out there. And also, say you're a parent and your kid's getting into it, what's going on with that? Or if you're a fan and you want to get your friends involved, and where's a good place to start? There's so much to pick from. So we're going to have some introductory stuff, and so I'm not going to be too condescending about it, but we're going to start at the very, very, very bottom, and we're going to work our way up. Also in this video, I'm going to do like 10 main recommendations on where you can start. What would be a good example for a manga to start with, and I'm going to have 2 recommendations per different kind of reader, because everybody's got different tastes, everyone's got a different kind of angle on how they're approaching manga for the first time, and that's what we're going to deal with. So first up, what is manga? Manga is basically comics from Japan. That is the absolute basic description of what manga is. Okay, we can move on from that. So you probably all know this, but we're going to go through it anyway. Manga, essentially, is printed in the regular Japanese format of starting from the right and working its way to the left. So it's kind of in reverse to Western standards, and the pages flow in that direction. Manga is typically published in anthology format. So this is a magazine called Shonen Jump, for example, comes out once a week. Lots of different stories come out. There's about maybe 20 different series, 15 to 20 different series that are going on all the time. And so within one magazine that you're picking up every week, it'd be boring if every single series was exactly the same. You can't have action for every single series. So some will be comedies, some will be romances, some will be like cooking, for example, some will be about sports. And the anthology format allows that variety, and that is why a lot of the Japanese comics are a lot more interesting and varied. So I've got another one here. This is like Lala magazine, and it's just as thick. I think it comes out, is it once every 2 weeks? Once a month, something like that? So they come out at different rates. Some are slower, some are really quick. So a breakneck speed once a week, and that is how Shonen Jump comes out. So the majority of manga, you've got like 2 main groups. It's not really that important, but basically you have manga aimed for boys, manga aimed at girls. So the boys manga is called shonen manga, and the girls manga is called shoujo manga. There's lots of crossover, and people read everything and all kinds. It's not really that important, but it's just a basic indicator of the kind of manga it's going to be. It's just if someone says, oh, I want to read a shonen manga, you have a basic expectation of what that manga's kind of going to be like. So first up, if I check my shelf, I have got, it's probably going to be a little bit of a controversial pick for some people, but for a basic shonen manga to start out with, I've gone with Black Clover, and I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to explain each of these examples why I think this is a good place to start. So I'm not going to recommend something that's already been around for about 20 odd years. I'm not going to recommend something that's already finished. I'm going to recommend stuff that's like current, relevant, and if you want to get involved with manga and you want to like talk to your friends with something that's kind of ongoing, Black Clover is like a basic all-rounder. It's a good blueprint for how a lot of shonen manga works. It has like adventure, it has comedy, it's funny. The artwork's really strong, and it maintains its tone throughout. It doesn't take any weird dramatic turns. It doesn't try and upset anybody. It's just here to have an adventure and have a bit of a laugh, a bit of a good time. So Black Clover is like a fantasy action series. There's a guy, he's got no powers in a world where everybody has magic and can fight on the top level. So he has to like train hard, fight the bad guys, prove his worth. And it's fairly familiar ground if you've read a couple of series like this. And there's nothing wrong with that. What it does quite well. So it's a good, like, a basic level to start at, and then you can kind of develop your tastes from something like this. But yeah, that's Black Clover. I quite like it. I think it's fun. So yeah, next up, let's move on. So my second example for a good shonen manga to start with, I have got Promised Neverland. Quite different in tone from Black Clover. It can get quite dark. Not wanting to get too far into spoilers, which is why I'm saying you should read it as soon as possible. It starts off, you've got a bunch of kids in this orphanage, and they're all having a lovely, lovely time. But then they find out all of their world is a lie, and they need to get out of this prison as soon as possible, because there are fatal consequences if they don't get to grips with the situation. And it's very gripping. It reaches a point at the end of the story arc, and then it develops into new areas, but basically, it's almost finishing in the manga. So now's a good time to jump on. You can read it the whole way through, and you can get ahead of your friends who have only watched the anime. And if they've only watched the anime, they have got no idea what is going on in the second half of this manga. And you can quite quickly get past where they are. And so it's a good one. It's kind of scary. It's a little bit weird. So for each little category, I'm going to have 2 main nominations, but also after that, I'm going to have like a third nominated one just to fill the gaps. So the obvious pick that I probably should have gone with is My Hero Academia. So if you don't like Black Clover, but you want something a little bit more familiar, this one is shonen done in the style of superheroes. So if you like your X-Men's, for example, and your Avengers, it's kind of a little bit more in that direction. So this is the first proper video I've done on this channel, and all the manga stuff I'm going to look at is predominantly going to be physical. I do like my physical books, I do like my physical manga. However, if you want to get straight on board with shonen manga in particular, there is the Shonen Jump app. It's like free to download, and you get all of the first chapters of all the stories for free, and also the last 3 weeks worth of chapters also for free. And it's like $2 a month, and you can unlock all of the old stuff as well. So you get a complete run of My Hero Academia, all of Black Clover, and all of Promised Neverland. You get all the classic, like the legacy stuff. You get all like Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, you know, all the stuff that you've heard of and never had a chance to perhaps read. So yeah, Shonen Jump's pretty good for like, yeah, £2, $2, and then you can just go for it. Shonen Jump. Okay, we're going to move on. So we've had our shonen recommendations. Let's move on to the other side. Let's go to the shoujo side. So shonen is typically like action oriented and lots of people beating each other up. Shoujo is typically associated with like the girls' side, like romances, relationships, that kind of thing. And there's some good stuff. So I'm going to start off with a basic recommendation. We have got Fruits Basket. This is like a Tokyo Pop edition that's out of print, but there's an edition. It has like 2 volumes in one. It's nice and deluxe, and it's very good. It's also one of these series that it crosses the boundary between all kinds of fans. So people who normally watch action shows, they will probably be familiar with Fruits Basket, and a lot of them might have watched it as well, or read it, you know, that kind of thing. And also, it's still running. They remade the anime series. There's an old anime and the new anime, and the new anime is still ongoing. So if you want to get ahead of the crowd, you can get on them with the manga, and it's quite fun. It's about a girl who's kind of like, she's hit on a rough spot. She's currently homeless, basically. And she ends up living with a bunch of people who kind of take her in. And in a situation where you hug a person of the opposite gender, they transform into an animal from the Chinese zodiac. It's a bit of a fantasy element to it, but most of it is based on like real emotions and experiences. So there's quite a lot of like themes of like bullying, lack of confidence, wanting to belong, basically. And it's not done too saccharine. It's done quite regular. It's quite funny at times, and because you relate to the characters, when the dramatic moments hit, they hit a little bit harder. So I do recommend this one. It's quite a good, everybody knows what it is. It's a good example for a good place to start. Okay, next up, put that one away. And next we have got Yona of the Dawn. And this is a proper fantasy series. It's about a girl, she's a princess, and everything's going well until, spoilers, in chapter 1, her father gets murdered. Her father, the king, emperor, gets murdered, and she has to go on the run. She's got to get out of there and survive. She kind of starts off as a bit of a wet blanket. She's not particularly useful, being a princess and never having to do anything for herself, but she kind of pulls up her boots and she gets on with it. And it's good. I do recommend it. It's still ongoing, and I think there's about 30 volumes. It's a bit of an investment, but from my experience with a lot of shoujo readers, they don't mind. If they like a series, they're going to stick with it to the bitter end. So if you want to be a part of that kind of group or fandom, this is a good one. I do recommend. This is fine. Okay, next one. Runner-up. I have gone for My Love Story. And the only reason I didn't nominate it is because it's finished, it's all complete, and it's not current. It's also one of the best shoujo manga that I've ever read. I very, very much recommend it. It's funny. It's very like wholesome and positive, and the drama is all well-meaning, and it's never overly sentimental or anything like that. It just works. It's very like everyday, and it's nice. It's just good. If you want to feel good, My Love Story. Okay, next is going to be one of the more difficult kind of people to recommend for. This is like manga aimed at kids, like children. So if you're like a parent and you want to buy your kid manga, but you don't want to buy something that you might end up regretting, sort of thing. So yeah, it's probably quite difficult. Okay, so first up, I've gone for a fairly easy recommendation. This is Cheese Sweet Home, and it's a manga about a cat and about what a cat does, and it's kind of cute. And another one of these mangas that kind of points out the hypocrisy of a lot of manga stuff, because when this was serialized originally in Japan, it was released in a magazine that was aimed at older males, but it doesn't matter. So like the whole demographic, whether it's shonen, shoujo, it just goes to show that it's not that important. You just read what's suitable for what you want. And Cheese Sweet Home is cool. It's actually oriented like left to right, Western style, and it is in full colour. Majority of manga is published in black and white because it's, you know, cheaper and quicker to produce. But full colour, it's nice and deluxe. It's very safe throughout. And you can give it to anybody. You could give it to like your grandparents, you could give it to yourself, you could give it to your nephew, nieces, and anybody. And it's very safe, and no one's gonna get it confiscated at school. It's completely safe and is very wholesome, and it's cute, and it's cats. There's nothing wrong with this. I very much recommend it, and it's worth checking out. My next recommendation, however, is a little bit riskier to give to a child, but I believe that if there's a kid doing stuff and their parents 100% approve of what they get up to, then this kid needs to push a bit harder. The kids need to learn their own stuff. So I have gone for Dr. Slump. If you like toilet humour, then this is where you need to be. It is aimed at children. It is rude. It is naughty. And that's why it's good. So this girl, I say girl, she's like a robot. She crashes into things, she breaks things, she blows things up, and she has quite an odd obsession with poo. So she like gets the stick and she's like poking the poo on the ground, and also it's really stupid, and that's good. And it's also, if you bought this for like someone who's about 10 years old, this 10-year-old would be like, oh, am I allowed to read this? And that's quite a good level, I think, for a kid's story. They need to think that it's their own kind of thing, you know. They don't think that it's, oh, my mum and dad have approved of this. It's like, no, this is like my manga, and I'm not going to show them what's in it in case I get in trouble. This is the kind of manga this is. It's a little bit on the naughty side, but it is a lot of fun. Also, the artist, Akira Toriyama, he went on to then draw Dragon Ball Z, and he's a hugely famous and influential illustrator and manga artist. So if they read Dr. Slump the whole way through, they can gradually evolve and be a mega manga fan if they just go through the whole lot. So yeah, this is cool. This is some lowbrow stuff, okay? Next up is the backup. If that's no good for you, you can just get something normal like Pokemon manga. There's like Legend of Zelda manga, Yokai Watch manga. There's a lot of manga based on like video games, but like at the children's end, and it's kind of safe. You're not gonna really go wrong with it. And yeah, so that's my backup pick if Dr. Slump's no good. All right, next up, 2 more recommendations. This is for the more, I don't like to say it, but the more highbrow reader, the more discerning reader, more, you know, kind of like, I'm not going to say pretentious, but I did just say that. So it's the kind of reader who says, oh yeah, this is going to be a literary venture for me. You know, it's a little bit more high end. So we're going to go this direction. We have gone for, this is My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness. So I'm not going to show the front cover too much because it's kind of got a little bit of nudity on it, but it's tasteful. It's written by an adult and it's supposed to be read by adults. It's kind of like a mature book kind of thing. It's not an adult book. It's for people who are sensible. It's a diary manga. It's essentially a diary or a personal experience kind of description. So it's about a woman. She has a lot of depression, a lot of like self-esteem issues, and it's only one part of it, but her sexuality is a part of her self-esteem, working out who she is, what she wants to do, that kind of thing. It's got a little bit of colour artwork in there. It's just like the extra two-tone. It can get a little bit heavy sometimes, but it's the kind of manga that broke outside of manga boundaries, and it had regular comic book readers were reading it. The more artistic publications were taking notice of this kind of work, and it's good. That's the bottom line. If it's good, it's worth reading, and this is good. So yeah, sorry I'm not showing the cover that much. I'm a little bit worried that you know, YouTube might censor it or something silly like this. But it's good. You can go on Amazon and see the cover for yourself, so that's no problem. So yeah, My Lesbian Experience of Loneliness. It's a good book, very much recommended. Quite an easy thing to recommend. Okay, move on to the next one. It's kind of similar in tone. Well, not in tone. It's different in execution, but similar in content is what I mean to say. This is Disappearance Diary, and this is another diary manga. And yeah, it's not one that's really spoken about as much. It's all contained. It's just one volume. It's not a series, and it's about a guy. He has his own depression and experiences in that area, and he runs away from home and becomes homeless. And you learn about how he goes through like withdrawal symptoms from being an alcoholic, and it's done in quite an engaging, breezy way. Not light-hearted, but he draws kind of cartoonishly in a. He knows that these readers know what depression feels like. He doesn't need to dwell on it in that manner. So it's an interesting way to engage certain ideas and, you know, emotions and bad things that can happen to you in a way that doesn't indulge them. And it says, this sucked, and this is how I got through it. You know, it's this kind of approach. So it's a good one. And I think it's kind of underrated. People don't really talk about it that much. And if you want to impress your little indie hipster friends, you can read something like this and tell them, oh, have you heard of this one? You know, you can kind of maybe go around it that way. It's a good one to read, and I think it's worth checking out. Next up is the backup, and I have gone for, actually it doesn't fit on the shelf because it's too big. I've gone for Tekken Concrete, and it is a big 3-in-1 massive volume, and the only reason I didn't recommend it as part of these two is because I read it quite a few years ago and I don't remember all the details of the story. So if you just want to see something that's completely different, and the artist Taiyo Matsumoto, which I cannot load down here, there we go. Taiyo Matsumoto, he's one of these artists that every now and then his name floats around and people start buzzing about him again. He's got a manga coming out soon called Ping Pong, so that's the new one to be looking out for. But this is a good place to start if you want a bit of a, hipster manga. This is a good way to go. Alright, next up is my final section of recommendations. So we've gone through shonen, shoujo for children, and your hipster mangas. So the next one is just show me the cool stuff. You know, I'm an adult, I know what I'm doing, I want to read whatever's good, just show me what's good. So this is what we've gone for, and we have gone for Golden Kamuy. Golden Kamuy is set in the early 20th century in Japan. It's a weird mixture of stuff. It has got lots of violence. It has got absurd humour, like toilet humour as well. It has got historical lessons about the Ainu clan, and the Ainu clan are like the indigenous population of Japan, so you can learn something from it as well. But the more it goes on, the weirder it gets. So the initial premise is that there's a bunch of people who have these tattoos on them, and if you line up their tattoos, it reveals a map to like some gold, some treasure, this kind of thing. But to get the map, you need to skin the humans and remove the skin. You need to kill them. So it's going in that direction already. But it's weird. And the more it goes on, so once you hit about, you know, volumes 1, 2, 3, it's kind of standard. It's going all right. Once you hit like volume 10, it's really weird, really funny. Yeah, so that's that one. It's a lot of fun and it gets a bit crazy at times. Next up, in a similar vein, is Dorohedoro. This one's even weirder, and I'm recommending it now because there's a series on Netflix that's just about to start of it. So if you want to get a little bit of a head start or a taster, this is the good way to go. So Dorohedoro is about a guy who has had his head turned into a lizard by magicians. Still with me, yeah? So he wants to get his head turned back into human, and so he just wants to fight people and find out. Also, he's got a man living in his throat, so he kind of like bites people, and the person in his throat tells them whether they're the person or not who can cure them of their magical disease. It's weird, and the more it goes on, the less sense it makes. But it's not about the story, it's about the style. And it's got a really varied cast. There's a lot of odd things that go on here, and the world building and the design, and it's just out there. It's very violent. I forgot to mention that. It's extremely violent. You will see a lot of things outside that should be inside. I'll leave it at that. It's very, very good. And our runner-up is Vagabond, which is this way up. Another thick, thick volume. These are 3-in-1. You can get them individually, or the 3-in-1 deluxe ones. They have got lots of... There's some colour artwork in there, but there's lots of content here. The artwork is lush. The illustrator is one of the best going. Takahiko Inoue. He's one of the best manga illustrators for my money out there. And this is a big samurai drama epic. The only reason it's not recommended as part of the main two is that it isn't complete. It gets a long way in, but he's got better things to do, and so he's on a break from it, and he's not writing it right now. But it's excellent, and it's very well worth it. Really cool artwork, really cool action, and it doesn't rush. If a fight needs to last 200 pages, a fight's going to last 200 pages. And that is my final recommendation. So really, I meant to do 10 recommendations, and we ended up doing 15. So hopefully that is good. And I hope you've learned a little bit about manga, and hopefully I've also piqued your interest in one or two of these titles. Not every manga is going to be for every reader. But once you're underway with some basic stuff, you can then develop into, oh, that didn't work for me, that did work for me, I'm going to move more in this direction, this is the stuff I like more of. Or anything, really. Just read what you want. But I hope this was a bit of a nice primer just to get you underway. Also, just drop me a question if you want to ask anything. Who knows? You might have a really particular taste that you want to hear about. But yeah, just ask away. And I'm going to try and do more of these, not basic stuff like this. We don't need to be introduced every time, but I'm going to try and do more recommendation videos every now and then. And I hope that that's of interest. And I hope that this video is of interest as well. But thank you very much if you made it this far. This is Usho signing off, and hopefully I will see you next time.